Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. One of the most familiar sounds during the holiday season has to be the bell ringer standing by an iconic red kettle. Well, on this edition of Open Line, we're going to learn about Irving's Salvation Army and the many programs they sponsor to help the community. Our special guests today are Major Stan Carr, Corps Officer, and Charles Hansen, Director of the Boys and Girls Club. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to have y'all, and it's an exciting time of year. Now, I know that the Irving Salvation Army has served the community for over 25 years. That's a very long time.
It is.
Major Stan, could you give us an overview of Salvation Army's history here in the community?
Here in the community? We're actually, this coming year, in 2018, will be 30 years in Irving.
Oh, wow.
So we're looking forward to having some kind of celebration to mark that time. It always starts in the Salvation Army with a church building, and then from there we roll out our social service programs, our programs for children, our programs for seniors, and then whatever else that we see as a need in the community, we try to find a way to go and meet it.
What other information can you give us about the history here?
The history here is pretty similar to the history of the Salvation Army everywhere. We start because we see a need. We work together to find specific programs that will meet those needs in the community where we are. So in Irving, we have, for instance, a fairly high Hispanic speaking population. So we've started ESL classes. That's one of the things that we do. We know that there are seniors in our community that struggle because they're on limited income. So we've started a feeding program specifically for seniors that we can help them with. It constantly evolves as we look for needs that are present in the city. So the history is kind of the history of everywhere. Find a need, meet it.
Yeah, I love that. Now, speaking of everywhere, we were kind of pinpointing Irving, but can you tell us about the organization's history worldwide?
Sure. Salvation Army began in 1865 in London, England. William Booth is the founder. He became the first general of the Salvation Army. He used military terms because in Victorian England it was kind of a difficult society to keep things organized, but they were very familiar with military systems. So they put a military system in place. People understood that way the role of each individual, the hierarchy of command, if you will. And he was able then to appoint people to go and take care of specific needs and roll it out fairly quickly. He never intended to start a church, but what he found when he was initially preaching with the Methodist Church is that there were people on the streets that, because of the class system of Victorian England, they'd go into a church, and if they weren't wealthy enough to buy a pew, they were put behind a screen and told they could stand and listen, but they couldn't really be seen. He didn't feel that that was appropriate, and so while he didn't intend to start a church, the people came to him and he didn't see another way to take care of it. So he began this church, but immediately with the church came the social aspect of it. He has always said that you can't really teach a person about the gospel of Jesus Christ if they're hungry or they're homeless or they're in need. And so we work to fill those needs in order to show the love of Christ to them.
That's beautiful. Okay, so to talk about the needs, I know you do different things to raise money and to help out with the Salvation Army. We talked a bit about the Red Kettle campaign that's going on right now, but there's a lot of other programs you offer through the Salvation Army too, like the music program, for instance. Can you tell us about some of those?
Love to. Salvation Army, since its early days, has had a great emphasis on music. Initially, it was a group of one family who came together who could play some brass instruments. Not well, I must say, but the general decided that having that music, even if it wasn't good, would attract attention. And if people came to see what the noise was, he could then share with them the gospel, find out what they needed, and meet those needs. Well, we've evolved our music programs, we've worked on them. We now have some of the finest musicians anywhere in the world that play in Salvation Army bands, sing in Salvation Army choirs. Many of them are professional in that they teach music or they make their living in music. And they still volunteer in their local churches each week. Here in Irving, we have a brass band of 35 people that's one of the finest bands anywhere around. We're actually in concert this Friday night with the Irving Symphonic Band for a Christmas special. And then we take that love of music and the use of music in worship, and we offer to teach the young people who come through our building. So whether that's children of people who attend the church, children that attend our Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club, we offer to teach them music, vocal, brass, keyboard, guitar, and we don't charge them anything for it because we believe there is such a power in music to elevate people's spirits that we want to give that opportunity to as many young people as we can.
I love that. And I'm glad that you brought up young people because I want to come to you, Charles, and ask about the Boys and Girls Club and the emphasis on the youth programs that you offer in particular. Can you tell us a bit about the Boys and Girls Club here in Irving?
Absolutely. Most of our programs are centralized around making sure that our youth grow into, I would say, passionate and successful citizens. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, millionaires. They're going to grow up and be, owners of Google or Apple, but that just means they're going to be able to provide for their family and they can grow spiritually. So luckily, us partnering with the Salvation Army, the Boys and Girls Club gets that component of both spiritual and being able to use the Boys and Girls Club programs.
Wonderful. And can you tell us how the relationship works, Major?
Sure. The Salvation Army and the Boys and Girls Clubs of America entered into a partnership over 50 years ago that really takes two well-known and trusted brands, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the Salvation Army, marries them together to present a really positive front. We offer Boys and Girls Clubs programs as part of our Salvation Army youth programming, so kids can come into our community centers. They can not only receive spiritual guidance, but we can take all of the well-developed and proven Boys and Girls Clubs of America programs, whether that's in education, athletics, civics, positive image, all those types of things. We marry them together and offer them under one roof so that the kids get a very well-rounded opportunity. And the program has worked well, and we're looking forward to continuing that kind of a relationship.
I love it. And so I'm sure the advisory board plays a big role in that. How is it organized, and what role does it play in supporting the Salvation Army's programs and services?
Our advisory council, advisory board is just what it says. It's a group of people who come together to give the local Salvation Army officer advice as to what might be better ways, more efficient or effective ways to present programs, to deliver programs, or to bring ideas of where they see a need in the community. So our advisory council is made up of 25 individuals who are Irving residents, who have had a variety of responsibilities within the city. We have a former mayor on the board. We have a current councilman on our board. We have business people from across the city who come in. They meet with me once a month for a couple of hours, and we sit down and we obviously have an agenda to try to keep things organized and moving, but it gives them an opportunity to present things that they see, or gives me an opportunity to say, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think? Can you help me find out if this is actually a need or if this is just something that someone has thrown at us and we don't want to spend an unlimited amount of resources on something where we have no time or resources to do that if it's not really the need that's there. So they come in and they give us those kinds of advice. They also help us with fundraising and community awareness.
And with your annual Super Lunch, right?
Super Lunch is our biggest single fundraiser. We just had it a couple days ago, and Mr. Jerry Jones had been our speaker this year. Jerry came and spoke because he was the speaker at the very first Super Lunch 25 years ago. And so when we invited him back, he was thrilled to do that. And he shared with us in that luncheon that the Cowboys Association with the Salvation Army actually started right here in Irving.
I love it, and we get to see a little video of Jerry Jones there at the podium. I know the Cowboys were early supporters of the Irving Salvation Army. Can you tell us how the Super Lunch came about and how the Jones family involvement evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. The Advisory Council in 1993, which was the original council, came together and said we need to find a way to raise awareness and to raise money at the same time. So they thought about doing a soup lunch fundraiser where they would just bring people together, charge them on an amount of money that they had determined would be reasonable, and give them, at that time, it was going to be a bowl of soup like you would get if you were coming to a soup kitchen or a food pantry that maybe we would be running. They found out quickly that there was two big obstacles to that. One, it's very difficult to keep soup warm for a large number of people and serve it so that it's edible. And two, soup doesn't raise a lot of money.
Right.
And so they thought, okay, we've got to find a different way. So they planned a soup, what became known as the Super Lunch. They invited Jerry to come to bring his Super Bowl trophy that the Cowboys had just won.
No way.
And that's where the name kind of evolved from. And they presented a lunch, and in the early days, the Cowboys underwrote the cost of the entire luncheon for us so that we could raise the dollars. It's gone from 100 and some odd people in the gymnasium in our building to what was on Tuesday, 575 people at the Irving Convention Center. with a lunch that I think they would all say was a little bit better than soup.
Yeah, they look like they're enjoying for sure. We're checking out a bit of video there. And since we're talking about soup, let's talk about some other food too, because I know y'all have many social services that you provide. And you have your food program, particularly a program called Soul Food.
Soul Food, Sustaining Our Unlimited Lives. It's a program that that my wife and some of the ladies came up with. We get a very generous donation each Friday from Trader Joe's. And they provide us with food, fresh food, meat, vegetables, milk, bread, all those types of things. And we have the opportunity then to have the seniors in Irving come in, who they sign up during the week. They come in on a Friday. They spend a little bit of time with our League of Volunteer Ladies, which is a group of ladies who are just that, a group of ladies who come and volunteer to help us help others.
Nice.
And so they come in, I spend a little time with them, they sing a song, maybe have a Bible reading or a prayer with them, then they take them into the gym, and one by one they take them around with a real sense of dignity, like they're going through a shopping store, and they get to choose the food that they like that would be good for their family and take that home with them. Our hope is that by providing them with food for the week, their limited resources will then allow them to pay for rent, for utilities, for medical necessities, and relieve the stress that they have in trying to make it on a limited income.
Wonderful, but there are going to be those who cannot afford to pay their rent, and I understand y'all have a rental assistance program too.
We do. We have a two-pronged rental assistance program that is funded through community block development grant through the city, which we're very grateful for. People who are in need of rental assistance because something has happened, the bills have piled up, they've lost their job very recently, they can come to us and say, I can't make rent, I am in imminent danger of becoming homeless. We will work with them. Our social service worker will call their landlord, we'll get information together, and as long as they qualify, and there are some certain qualifications they have to meet, we will pay for their rent for a month to allow them to get through that obstacle. However, in some cases, 1 month is going to do it for them. They need more help than that. And so we give them the opportunity, and we're the only agency in Irving that does this, we give them the opportunity to attend a financial education class that is run by our staff. They're qualified, certified to run it. And if they go through that course and they pass it, we'll then give them 100% of their rent in month 1, 75% in month 2, and 50% in month 3 to allow them to get on their feet. They've learned now how to budget, how to use the money that they get, so that hopefully they won't have to turn to us or another agency in the future.
Smart. I like that. So you're not only helping them out, but you're giving them a handout and a hand up so that they can take care of themselves in the future. Charles, I want to talk to you a bit more about the youth programs. So is there an assistance program when it comes to food? Is there a feeding program for children and teens?
We actually have a funded government program for snack, and depending on if it's during the summer, they get breakfast, lunch, and snack. And on the after-school program, it is a hot meal. And we're currently working and partnering again with the Salvation Army and some of the school districts. So we're going to try and get food into their backpacks, so some of the kids who don't get as many meals as they should will have meals during the weekend.
Wonderful, so that they're not hungry when they're at home. Now tell me about your after-school programs you offer.
The after-school program, we pick up from 7 schools. Our biggest draw is at Paul Keyes, which is right across the street. And that's when we really get to make the impact, is after school. Summer is more of a necessity because school is not in session, so parents need a safe place to drop their kids. But after school, we have our enrichment program, Club 316 program, which is a Salvation Army based program, helping with the spiritual part. We've got Power Hour, which we help with their homework. We've got STEM projects. We recently, when I got on board, they started soccer, and I am happy to report that they are the 3-time champions. That has nothing to do with me. I just happened to land at a great time. It has everything to do with the coaches and the group of people that help and spend time with the young ones.
And a little bit of your help too, I'm
sure.
A
little bit.
I know a thing that the kids really love right now, Digital Learning Center that you offer. How do they use that?
We actually got a grant from Target, and we run a program called Everify.
Okay.
And it's mainly a way for them to feel like they're playing video games, but they're also learning. So there's math games, there's literature games, and that way they're on the computer and they think, they're on the internet playing games, PS4, but they're actually learning. So it's an easy way to get them a educational component without having to fight them over homework.
Smart. Okay, and when you talked about playing games, I know you offer sports programs as well.
Yes, as I mentioned, our biggest program is the soccer program. When we started off, there was 20 kids, and now we're up to 65.
Wow.
We actually had 3 teams in the championship, 8 and under, 10 and under, and 12 and under. And this upcoming summer, we're going to have a basketball team, and in the summer, we're having a travel team as well, go down to Houston to participate in the Boys and Girls Club kind of Olympics, where we're going to have the Metroplex and the Houston Metroplex get together and trying to host like kind of an Olympics for the kids.
Very nice. It sounds like fun. And
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
what else sounds fun too is your partnership with the YMCA. I understand, Major, that you're doing some work with them too?
This really leads into what Charles was talking about with our soccer and basketball programs. The local Y doesn't have a gym. We have a gym. So they bring their basketball program into our gym with their coaches and referees, play basketball, and our kids can be a part of that.
Right.
And then we don't have soccer fields, and the Y does. So we can make a visit that way to do some of that kind of work. And so we've got together as 2 agencies and said we can help each other. We don't charge each other anything. We just make the facilities available so that we can basically lift up youth in the community.
I love that. And I have 2 daughters. So when I read about this other program, I said, I've got to learn about it. The Smart Girls program. What is that?
That's Charles.
That's Charles?
That is actually one. Smart Girls and Passport to Manhood are 2 of the programs that I am most proud of, because it is our staff getting together and giving the kids confidence, self-image, and it's teaching. With the Smart Girls, it's teaching the girls how to respect themselves so that as they get older, they know what to expect from our gentlemen who are in Passport to Manhood. Recently, 2 weeks ago, they got to have kind of a sleepover. Obviously, I wasn't going to stay overnight because that would be a long time, but they got to have a sleepover where they came in the morning, they got their makeup done, their hair done, and they got to go to the Nutcracker and watch the ballet. And members of the advisory council were nice enough to basically donate all those tickets, and then after the ballet they got to go to the Las Colinas Country Club, which also the advisory council donated to us.
Wonderful. I'm sure they had a great time.
That was a
They did.
private dinner, so they got to learn a little bit about etiquette.
Yep.
And the kids got to meet the ballerinas.
They got point shoes.
Wow.
It was a long deal. It was 9 to 9, and they still talk about it today.
bet.
And yeah, no, they had a great time.
Wow, and I bet the kids are having a great time on this new playground you have too, Major, and you had sponsorship and volunteerism involved with that. Tell
We
us more.
certainly did. The Kaboom Corporation is a playground corporation that works with nonprofits and companies around the country to put in safe, healthy playgrounds, and places where kids can get outside and play, which unfortunately they don't do as much as they once did. But locally, Target Corporation came on board and became our funding partner, and they also provided us with a couple hundred volunteers. And we went through a full year of preparation meetings with Target. We then got to a point where it was time to design the playground. And with Charles's help, we went to the children that come to the Boys and Girls Club, said, if you could have anything in a playground, what would you like? That was amazing to see their imaginations kick in. They had everything in there, from an ice cream shop to an unlimited ATM. The Charles
Wow.
office up in a tree, to swings and all
pools.
kinds of other things, swimming pools. And so we let them draw all those things out. We took them all together
beautiful.
after they left. As the staff sat down and looked to see what were the most common components. Then we said to Kaboom, these are the things the kids want. They came up with 3 design options. We chose one. They got all the components together, brought it to our facility, and on one Thursday, from about 7 in the morning until 3:30,
3, 4, yes.
we built a playground from the ground up.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Does it have an unlimited ATM? Because
It
I need
does
to go.
not.
Oh man.
Sorry to say.
Yeah, I
But
was
at least
looking
they're
for it.
smart kids, right? Y'all would have been the first people there
Yes,
in
in
line just to
line.
show them how it works.
That's right.
Okay, so how did the advisory board play a role in the playground?
They did several things. One, they helped us negotiate with Kaboom and work through that process with them, making sure all the paperwork was filled out properly. They recruited volunteers. They came out. There's some of our advisory council are not the youngest people walking around Irving, but they were out there with shovels. We had one man he's in his mid-70s now. He was hauling wheelbarrow fulls of cement all day long, nonstop, just so
Wow.
he could see these kids get this playground.
Huh.
So it's very practical, but also a lot of advice and a lot of support.
Speaking of support, I understand volunteerism has played a huge role here. It made a difference at the Irving Center, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Even this morning we had a company that sent over about 45 volunteers to help us prepare the Christmas bags for the kids and the families that will be getting them next week.
So the League of Volunteers, do you work specifically with them, or are there just different corporations?
Now,
Because
the
you
League
mentioned
of
Target.
Volunteers is a specific group of ladies. It's all ladies. So my wife really is the one that works with them.
Oh, well, you better mention them for sure.
That's
Your
right.
wife's going to get you.
And they come together once a month and have a meeting. And again, they kind of do some of the similar things to the advisor board, and they look for ways to help. But these ladies don't just talk. They sit down, they roll up their sleeves, say, okay, we got a project, let's go and get it done. When we did the playground, they made sure there were people there to feed us. When we do other projects like the super lunch, they take care of all of the silent auction, get that organized and all those kinds of things. They have their own fundraising lunch, Soup, Soap, and Hope in April, and all that money that they raise, they then put in an account and they say, okay, what is it that you need that can make this program better? That might be equipment. A couple years ago now, they bought a new walkie-talkie system,
Yes.
so the staff could stay in communication with each other, because when you've got 120 kids in the building, they can spread out really quick.
I bet.
And so we need to know where they are. They also will sponsor kids to go to summer camp for a week to our camp in Midlothian. And so they will pay that $300 a week for the kids to go there. So they do some very, very practical things. They are forever asking, what else can we do?
Which
And
is great.
It's wonderful.
That is. And I'm glad you've mentioned your wife twice now, because I don't want you to be in any trouble.
I will not be, I promise.
Good. And Charles, I know you've had a lot of success with your after-school program and also your tutoring program. Can you tell our audience about it?
Yes, we partner with Sylvan, and Sylvan comes out twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, and they let us choose during the summer. It was literacy, one semester it was math, and with their help, I was happy to report in the first 6 weeks that every kid in kindergarten through 5th grade passed all their classes. And since I've been there, that was not something I could say. And I think that's probably another thing that we're most proud of, because that's Sylvan's work, that's the staff's hard work, because they're in the classrooms helping the kids, and 6 weeks in a row, every kid in kindergarten, 5th grade passed all their classes.
That is wonderful. Quite an accomplishment. I know something else y'all offer is something called Impact 25.
Yes, our
What-
Impact
you got
25
right there.
campaign is right
Yes.
there. It's something new that we started this year. We really started it in conjunction with the Super Lunch. We recognize there are a lot of people in Irving who have great hearts, who would love to be able to contribute to the Salvation Army programs, but maybe they don't have $1,200 to buy a table at a Super Lunch.
Right.
So we said, okay, what can we do that would make it possible for just average Mr. and Mrs. Irving citizen help? And so we came up with Impact 25. It ties in with our Year 25 Super Lunch. The idea is to ask people if they could donate $25 every second month for 1 year. So a total of $150 for the year. And with that, we pledged to take $150 and use it to try and touch 25 lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for telling us about that. There may be people watching right now that want to do that. They're like, I want to get involved with Impact 25, or maybe one of the specific programs you've mentioned. Maybe they want to volunteer to help. How do they go about doing so?
They can call us at the office at 972-438-6553. They can email me directly at stan.carr@uss.salvationarmy.org, and I'll get them all the information they want. We'll get them hooked up. If they would like to join Impact 25, we'll give them the forms to fill that out. They can do that by check. They can do that by credit card. They can even do it by cash.
Make it easy and convenient.
That's right.
Wonderful.
And they can do that in a one-time, every second month at 25, or if it's easier to do $12.50 a month for a year, we can make that happen too.
Wonderful. And Charles, how can the community help the Boys and Girls Club?
Same way, call, get in contact with me, and depending on what they want to do, we can always use more bodies to help. Having the kids cross the street, the tutoring programs, we could always use more coaches, because as I mentioned, our soccer team is getting quite big, so we can use, as many hands and bodies as possible.
Wonderful. So do you play soccer?
I do, but not as well as the kids.
Great answer. And so coming back to you, Major, you've accomplished quite a bit over the past years. And I'm just curious to know, what do you expect in the future? What can the community expect to see from the Salvation Army in the near future?
The quick answer to that is everything you've seen in the past we will continue to do to the very best of our ability. We're always looking for opportunities to enhance the lives of those who are struggling in Irving. If they're, Charles mentioned the backpack feeding program. That is something that we talked about between Charles and I and our advisory council, saying if we've got kids that we're feeding here in the afternoon, knowing that that might be the last meal they're going to have for the day, what happens when they're not here, Friday, Saturday and Sunday? So we're looking at opportunities to develop a program where we can feed the kids over the weekend. I'm sure there are other things that we have just not been made aware of yet. And so what we pledge as the Salvation Army is to continue to be there, continue to uphold the highest standards that we can, continue to maintain the trust that the public has given us, to be very effective with our donations. 82 to 87 cents of every dollar donated to the Salvation Army goes directly into programming.
Impressive.
And that's a pretty good number. If it's in disaster work, when we pledge 100% of the dollars you give, every penny will go to the disaster work. We will not take any administrative cut of any type off of that.
That's wonderful. And the same question for you, Charles. What can we expect in the future from the Boys and Girls Club?
My biggest thing would be bigger programs, get more kids involved, same thing, being able to touch more lives. If we can get them at a younger age, then we won't need quite as many people needing social services or food programs. So just growing our program and tackling teens, that's my next big program, is tackling the teens.
Tackling the teens. Good information. And I know we talked about the red kettles. We want people to actually support them, get out there and make donations.
We've got about 9 days of ringing left. We're only at about 55% of our goal for Irving, so we've got a long way to go in the last 9 days. So we could certainly use your financial contributions. Or if you or your family, your business have a couple hours or 4 or 5 hours you'd like to give us, we need bell ringers. We can't get the money in if we're not out there ringing the bells. And so that would be a great way to help. For
those who haven't seen the bell ringers, and they're like, well, where are they? Where can they find them?
Kroger stores, Walmart stores, Sam's Club, Fry's Electronics, Bass Pro. Those are the places that we're responsible for.
And the money raised in Irving, where does it go?
It's right here in Irving.
Stays right here in Irving. We love hearing that.
Yeah.
And we love hearing the information that y'all had to share with us today. Thank you both for being here.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching this edition of Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us on Thursday, January 4th at 1:30 p.m. for our next edition of the show. We'll see you then.